Friday, October 2nd. It's Three High Safeties. Let's talk about Thursday night football, starting with you, Sam. Did you all but say Sam Darnold is done with the New York Jets? What's the future look like for Darnold?
Well, if you look at the title of the article that got filed this morning, it turns out I actually did say he was done completely. It's the Sam Darnold era in New York is over. They're going to be targeting Trevor Lawrence or whoever their favorite quarterback at the top of the draft is, and Sam Darnold becomes the next intriguing reclamation project for another team in 2021 or beyond. I think his time is done. He's a broken quarterback. He's had two PFF grades above 80 since the start of the 2019 season. So a year plus the last 4 games now. He just doesn't look like he has it. And at the moment, the Jets aren't able to help him out and make him prove that he does. There isn't a good enough receiving core around him. The offensive line ranked 28th in our first PFF offensive line rankings. So Darnold just doesn't have a shot to prove that he has anything left. In New York, they're going to pick a new quarterback, but he'll get a shot somewhere else at 24 years of age. That's still worth taking a gamble on.
I think the Jets, so obviously, like you said, the Jets have no team around him. But with that said, with just Darnold specifically, you were banking on, and whoever was going to take him in the top 5 or top 10 in that draft year was banking on the fact that there was a glimmer of an NFL quarterback within the game tape of USC. You were banking on him becoming a quarterback, because let's remember, he was not a long-time quarterback when he became the USC starter. I mean, he was a tight end in high school for a lot of years, and then only at the end of his high school career did he become a quarterback. And you saw that in his feet, in his mechanics, and you were like, let's just hope that when he does develop into a real quarterback with real footwork, then we could finally have a guy who can actually play the position. And that hasn't happened yet. His footwork is still kind of a mess. You were hoping that the torque and the velocity that he showed at USC on short throws, he was very accurate on short throws. You were hoping that he could build on that and get to the intermediate and deep levels. That hasn't happened. You were hoping that the mistakes he made in the intermediate part of the field in terms of reading defenders, he would learn. That hasn't happened. I don't think it's all on him. I obviously think Gase has just not been, the offense has not worked for him. And I also don't think that, the quarterback position gets developed within the NFL teams as we wanted to believe it does. It's not like when I was coaching quarterbacks at the lower level where I'm trying to, every day is a footwork drill and trying to get his footwork to be perfect. They're hoping that you got to do that by yourself on your own time. The quarterback coach is almost like an assistant OC in the NFL. And Sam just hasn't corrected a lot of that stuff. And this is why we see him, against a Broncos defense that hasn't been great this year, 54.6, passing grade on Thursday night. It's just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Seth. I mean, I think there's a difference between a QB coach who's just trying to make you understand the playbook and help you out with, actual plays versus getting better. And I think that's why quarterbacks go to their, own personal coaches in the offseason. There's a difference between footwork and mechanics and getting ready to play, which is what a QB coach has to do. My concern with Darnold right now is I think the best he's ever played was his redshirt freshman year. And that was the year where it was like, man, look at these throwing up the seam. He reminded me of a young Phillip Rivers with the way he threw with anticipation and accuracy, short and intermediate ranges. And I'm thinking the deep ball is going to come along. He's not great there. That's one of those things that fluctuates. We see with Josh Allen this year. He goes from terrible to good. That stuff is dependent on your supporting cast. So that was supposed to get better at the NFL level. The problem is, while Josh Allen in Buffalo is like, the poster child, or that organization is the model for how to build around someone, we're 3 years into the Darnold experience, and he's throwing to Braxton Berrios and Jeff Smith on Thursday Night Football with, a run-heavy offense with Frank Gore, wheel routes to Frank Gore, who's my age, 37. So that is an issue. We haven't really gotten to see Darnold in a decent environment. It's gotten worse year over year. It's horrible right now. So I think he is a reclamation project only because I think the Jets will have an opportunity for a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields. But Darnold goes right back into that mix of the Marcus Mariotas or the Jameis Winstons. Take a shot. You never know what could happen there. So let's get into some of this weekend's action. 2 of the biggest games, starting with the Cleveland Browns and the Dallas Cowboys. Sam, the Browns have been up and down this year. The Cowboys are 1-2, putting tons of points on the board. What are you looking for in this one?
Frank Gore's your age. You got younger since the other day, huh? Okay.
Fine, I'm 38.
Right, fair enough.
Let me just
Fair
round
enough.
down for one.
Yeah, look, Dallas are a big favorite in this game, but I kind of like the way the Browns match up with them. Look, we talked about it on the PFF NFL podcast yesterday. I could easily see Dallas winning this comfortably and covering the spread and making the Browns look ridiculous. But I think there's a world where Baker Mayfield still looks good against this defense. The Cowboys are struggling to cover people on the back end. They do still have Odell Beckham. That connection is starting to bear a little bit of fruit. And critically, the Dallas Cowboys offense, their offensive line is struggling hugely because of injuries. Terrence Steele has a pass blocking grade in the 50s. He's given up double-digit pressures. He now gets to try and pass block against Myles Garrett. So I think there's definitely a world where the Browns' strengths match up really well against this Dallas team. And even though they're able to put up points, we might see a shootout where Cleveland's offense is able to keep pace and actually puts a scare on Dallas.
I find this matchup interesting because you have the Browns, who might be the best. Let me restart. The Browns are probably, and I'm going to get hate mail for this, the Browns are probably the worst 2-1 team. And the Cowboys are maybe the best 1-2 team. And so, I find that really interesting. For me, it comes down to the quarterback play, and Dak has just been significantly better than Baker Mayfield this year for sure. And Dak, I'm not ready to say the Dak for MVP stuff yet, and that'll be contingent on Russell not having the same start to the season that he's had. But Dak is such a fun player to watch. I watched him this week again, and what I think with Dak is he trusts everything around him. So he trusts the play call that Kellen Moore is calling for him. He trusts his eyes to make the right decisions based on what the defense is doing, in post-snap. And then he trusts his receivers that they're going to make plays for him. You see a lot of anticipation throws, especially to the outside against one-on-one coverage, especially to Michael Gallup. He's just become just a highly intelligent and very good player. And I'm kind of hoping that they actually turn things around because I like to see him play important games in January. So, and then the other side of the thing is, I think with Cleveland, it's all about how their start. If they can stay within their game plan from the get, then they can create easy throws for a quarterback who's not as good as Dak, and that's Baker Mayfield. If not, you're going to get into a game like the Ravens, where you're down 10-0, you can't run your play action, and you just can't ask right now. You just can't ask Baker Mayfield to drop back and dissect the defense like that. So that for me is the biggest key: is can they stay in the game long enough that they can keep their offense and what they want to do, what Stefanski wants to do, going long enough.
Yeah, I agree on Dak's playing great. Here's what I'm looking for with Baker, though. They've only thrown the ball 23 times in each of the last 2 games, and they are, letting the system dictate what Baker Mayfield's doing. He only has 3 big-time throws through 3 weeks. He's been one of the best over the last 2 years at creating those chunk plays. I don't know if Baker's the type of guy that you want to create into a Kirk Cousins controlled type of player. I think you might have to take some of the bad with the good, and in a game like this, a potential shootout with the Cowboys. The Cowboys know they're playing Big 12 football right now. They went into that game against the Seahawks last week saying we got to score and score fast. I think the Browns need to unleash Baker Mayfield a little bit more. I want to see if they do it. They're protecting him with 40% play action the last 2 weeks. That's fine, but there's still 15 or 20 plays per game where Baker needs to go out and be a playmaker, the playmaker that we saw coming out of Oklahoma. He's not going to become the guy in Cleveland until he proves he can do that. And I think they need to, give him a little opportunity to do that in a game like this, which could be high scoring against the Cowboys. I'm watching Baker and how they treat him in this week. And then the biggest game maybe this entire weekend, becoming a rivalry, the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the New England Patriots. It's a 7-point spread because New England maybe not as strong as they've been in previous years, but that defense has done a nice job against Patrick Mahomes. Sam, how are they going to do this weekend?
Yeah, this is a really intriguing matchup. Look, I really thought that the Baltimore Ravens had a shot of being Kansas City's kryptonite this past week. The way they play offense, that ball control style, the run-heavy system with Lamar Jackson providing the X factor that you can't really defend from the other side of the ball. And for one drive, it kind of worked, right? They drove all the way down the field on the first drive of the game, then stalled out on the 8-yard line, kicked a field goal. And from that point on, they were chasing the game because the Chiefs scored a touchdown, immediately put them in a hole. I want to see if New England can execute the same thing. They've got a similar ability to run that ball control offense where the quarterback is the extra dimension in the run game. Cam Newton can help you extend any drive when you hit 3rd and 3 by becoming that ball carrier and that rushing threat that you don't really have an answer for on the defensive side of the ball. We know that Bill Belichick has done as good a job as anybody can do against Patrick Mahomes and this offense. But I think that this offense of the Patriots is not uniquely, I thought the Ravens were as well, but they didn't get it done. This is another chance for that to actually derail this Kansas City offense. Just keep them off the field for a long period of time.
Yeah, and the opposite side of that is if they go into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes, we've seen Cam Newton now 3 games with the Patriots. The Seahawks game, especially in the fourth quarter, he was lights out, making reads, making throws. It was incredible. But he hasn't really had to do that against Las Vegas and against Miami week 1. So I'm curious to see, and the Chiefs have been playing really pretty good on defense this year. So I'm curious to see if they get into a shootout, what Cam are we getting? Are we getting an accurate Cam, or are we getting this Cam we saw in the fourth quarter against the Seahawks, which would be great. On the other side of things, the Patriots have done a pretty good job against Patrick Mahomes over their last 3 games. This is like the fourth game in 3 years, I think now.
Yep.
Eventually, Patrick Mahomes is going to get to you. I bet Patrick Mahomes he could play 9 straight bad games against the Patriots, and I would still pick him for the 10th one to go off. So that's the thing, and he was lights out on Monday night against the Ravens. I will say a lot of that now. Patrick Mahomes is amazing, but when you add in what Andy Reid is doing in terms of play design, it is the best combination that maybe we've ever seen. They've played against a heavy man coverage team in the Ravens. Now they go against a man coverage team, but a very different man coverage team in the Patriots, and how they don't necessarily blitz and play man coverage. They're going to keep low hole players. They're going to keep safeties to rob and stuff like that. Very different matchup. They played a lot of zone last year against Kansas City. We'll see if they do that again. Just honestly, it's just a fun matchup that you can't take your eyes off.
Yeah, Seth, you nailed it. You said, it's Andy Reid and the play calling. Not to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes, but in the 3 matchups, we have a 64 PFF passing grade. That's about average to below average for Patrick Mahomes, but he still has a passer rating of 102 during that time. And I think Andy Reid, even before Patrick Mahomes got there, put up 40 on the Patriots with Alex Smith in 2017. They've had success. So I think it's that combination. It's Mahomes plus Reid and Bieniemy, plus all those playmakers that make the matchup so intriguing, in seeing how Belichick in New England try to take away Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. That is the cat and mouse game. How many times can you take Patrick Mahomes off of his first option? But the key is Mecole Hardman's here now getting behind the defense, and Sammy Watkins has his moments of getting open. That's why Kansas City's so tough to defend. So I want to see if Belichick can slow down Mahomes one more time, but in a way that the production doesn't get out of hand like it has over the last few years. Kansas City still producing even with an average Patrick Mahomes. If Mahomes plays well in this game, Kansas City could run away with it.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.